recorded. Okay, thank you. So, shall we start from the history and definition? Silent Way teaching method was developed by Caleb Getineau, thus based upon ideas outlined in his book titled The Teaching Foreign Language in Schools, The Silent Way, published in 1963. This method emphasized that teachers should silence as much as possible in the class and let the student be active in the learning activity. In the absence of the teacher dominating the lesson, the student takes an active role in learning process. The teacher redirect and correct only when it's necessary. This method is encouraging students to develop their independent problem-solving skills. The role of teacher is to direct students' focus, facilitate self-reflection, and provide verbal and non-verbal feedback when it's necessary. Students, on the other hand, are encouraged to speak as much as possible. The student also expected to be independent, autonomous, and responsible. Independent means that students are aware that they must depend on their resources and use their own knowledge. Autonomous means that students have to choose proper expression in given set of circumstances and situation. And the last one is the responsible. Responsible students know that they have the ability to choose what to say intelligently and carefully to be evidence of the responsibility. Most of the traditional tools for language instruction, such as textbook, worksheets, and verbal conjugation tables are completely absent from this method. But in this method, teacher uses medium of colored paper on the board that will be shown in the example video, and then questionnaire rows and the charts that indicate the correct certain letters called the Fidel charts, without the teacher having to teach pronunciation through rote memorization or call and respond exercises. So that's the history and definition. We are moving to the second material, is the features and the characteristic that will be delivered by Fikri. Fikri, time is yours.
Okay, thank you very much. The second one is about the characteristic. Next slide, please.
Sebentar.
Okay, Will Gatineau, its founder, who said to be interested in humanistic approach to education, much of Silent Way was characterized by a problem-solving approach to learning. What does the problem-solving approach to learning mean? That the method of this learning is to make the student easier to understand the concept of the language itself. For the student, it is easier to understand something concrete instead of abstract concept. That's why in this method, we use physical material as our equipment, such as colored roads or paper, which in language teaching, this colored roads or paper is used to teach vocabulary or grammar by using the color to represent particular sound or word. By doing this, it doesn't mean the teacher just sit in silence from the beginning of the class, but the teacher need to give them understanding how the color and what it is mean. Also, the teacher need to give them basic concept in order for student to understand the material that will given to them. Richard and Rogers summarize the theory of learning behind the Silent Ways. The first one is encourage the student to find or make instead of recalls and rehearsal what is to be realized. So in this method, the student doesn't need to recall or rehearsal or recite the words over and over again in order to learn the new words. Second, encourage by going with physical item. As what I mentioned before, in this method, we need a physical material such as the colored rods or the colored paper. The last one is encouraged by critical thinking, including the material to be educated. So as what Nadib said before, that in this method, the student push to talk more and explore their critical thinking. Furthermore, we can see and learn how this method applied on the next video. Sound, there's no sound, sir.
Using the silent way. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Hello everyone, my name is Fani Septiansa. So today I'm going to show you the teaching example using the silent way method. This method is based on the premise that the teacher should be silent as much as possible in the classroom, but the learner is encouraged to produce as much language as possible. So without further ado, let's get started. Okay, before we begin, let me introduce my sister. Her name is Kiran. Please say hi.
Hi.
Okay, today she will become my student. Okay, you can see on the board, each color represent the vowel sound. Okay, let's begin.
A, E, I, O, U. A, E, I, O, U. A, E, I, O, U.
So as we can see, the color of the paper is represent words.
O, U.
Okay, one more time.
E, A, I, O, U.
Okay, great.
E, A, I, O, U.
Okay, for now, without this.
A, E, I, A, E, I.
Okay, one more time.
A, E, I.
Good.
So the student need to memorize what the color represent.
O, U. O, U. A, E, I, O, U.
Okay, one more time.
A, E, I, O, U.
Okay, excellent. Okay, the next, there are some example for the vowel sound.
Cat, eagle, like, owl, owl, foot. Eagle, like, cat, owl, foot.
Okay,
A, E, I, O, U.
okay, great.
Cat, eagle, like, owl, foot.
Excellent. Okay, let's continue to the next material. And the rules is same. Let's begin.
1, 2, 3, 4.
Okay, thank you, Muhammad Fikri, for extraordinary explanation. So we are moving to the third material is advantage and disadvantage of silent method that will be delivered by Muhammad Ilham.
Okay, thanks to Muhammad Nadif. Like the other methods, the silent way also has advantage and its disadvantage. The first advantage of this method is that the tasks and activities in this method serve to encourage and shape student response. This makes the classroom atmosphere more active. And second is in this method, this method educates to concentrate on the subject matter and students who are required to always try to be independent in learning. And the third is because there is no correction if there are mistakes made by students and there is no explanation from the teacher, students are encouraged to make their own analogies by making conclusion and formulating their own rules. This certainly trains them in making conclusion and decisions quickly. Apart from having advantage, this method also has some disadvantage. First, the silent ways method gives students the freedom to make choices in the situation presented. This method seems that students can master the learning situation, but in reality, it is teachers who still play an active role in the teaching and learning process, in the teacher and learning process. And secondly, if we examine carefully, the silent ways is used for beginner level students who are only given materials for pronouncing syllables and making simple sentence construction, while reading and composing seems to be difficult to teach with this method. And the third is the silent way aims to guide students to achieve language fluency that is almost the same as native speakers. So they are required to master correct pronunciation, intonation, rhythm, and pauses in speaking the foreign language being studied. The teaching and learning process outlined by these methods certainly doesn't guarantee to achieve this goal. Okay, I think it's enough from me.
Okay, thank you, Ilham. And we are into the last material is tips to disadvantage that will be delivered by Muhammad Gifari. Muhammad Gifari, time is yours.
Thank you to Muhammad Nadif Mudia. It is tips. The first tip is the material to be applied must be adapted to the silent way method. Number two, do it repeatedly on each material until students understand the material given. And the last, the method is more effective in small group or of students because in this method, the way of learning must be adjusted to the silent way of teaching and also adapted to the ability of each individual student, and learning must be equal in terms of providing material. With this method, student cannot digest the material given directly. Therefore, it takes repetition of each explanation in order to increase the child memory to be better and effective in memorizing. The material must be made as fun or as simple as possible so that it can be understood quickly by student, because the teacher role in this method is how to process the material that will be given to student so that they quickly understand the material. But before starting learning, the teacher must explain clearly about the material before doing the silent way method. Often do exercise in small group to deepen the material as a form of application of the material provided so that student can explore, of course, with the guidance of the teacher. Maybe it's enough for me. Back to Nadif.
Okay, thank you, Muhammad Gifari. I think that's all from us. if you have any question, maybe we can discuss it on the iNotes.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, thank you, Group 5. Yeah, it's a great presentation. I love it. Please post some questions or comments or perhaps impressions to the groups in us. Yeah. And don't forget to give me the link of recording. So I will share the recording
Of course,
Group
sir.
5 in us. Yeah. Thank you. Assalamualaikum.